Alright folks, The Broken Code is going to be coming out this week and I am fired up again to start talking Warriors on the reg. Apologies for being away so long in terms of Simmy Speaks, but sometimes we just need a break from things we love to come back at it again with passion. So it only seems fitting to take on the arc that brought me back into cat hell to begin with. Let's finally tackle A Vision of Shadows. The good, the bad, and the disappointing. I want to get my disappointments out of the way first, since this is probably going to be the most predictable part of my analysis, since many of my grievances are shared with lots of others in the community, and because I feel like Vision of Shadows deserves to get the best save for last. After all, I still really enjoyed this arc, and I will stand by the claim that this has been the best written arc since the original. My first major disappointment is, shock and surprise, the last two books. River of Fire and Raging Storm really failed to live up to expectation and unfortunately made what was otherwise a great story a major drag just full of lost potential. In terms of Warriors books, these two are still pretty good, but easily the weakest relative to what came before it. Darkest Night can also be lumped in there, but River of Fire in particular was disappointing as it seemed to set up a lot of great directions the story could have gone, but then failed to follow through on any of them. To just list a few, Sparkpelt is hinted at becoming an antagonistic force against Twig Branch and the whole of SkyClan, but instead seems to overcome her grievances with both off-screen. RiverClan are secluding themselves, and it seems like a good sign that Misty Star might die. Honestly, it felt like Misty Star's death was teased constantly throughout this arc. And we even get teased a glimpse of looking at what's going on in RiverClan again. But neither of these things happen, and instead we get the book's namesake as an action set piece where nothing is really gained or lost. Conflict for conflict's sake. Twig Branch even gets a prophecy from StarClan that implies that the cats need to do something quickly or the forest will catch on fire and there'll be lots of death and mayhem and all that. But when Bramblestar refuses to help, it doesn't end up costing the cats anything. There's no consequence for ignoring the call to action. It was going to happen with or without them knowing about it, and since no harm came from ignoring StarClan, it just feels like that time was wasted to build stakes on something that didn't matter. And a lot of this can be said for most of the prophecies throughout this arc. And River of Fire even retroactively nulls the stakes of previous books by having a rescue mission for cats previously thought to be missing forever. This last one is the one that really bummed me out, because it just felt a little too easy and cheapened the experience of Hawkwing's Journey, which is one of my absolute favorite Warrior books. Hawkwing's Journey was all about loss and the struggles SkyClan had to go through to get to the lake. SkyClan loses 30 or more clan members in the course of that book, and the way these cats come back is so simple, you'd almost think SkyClan was trying to lose them. I was also really disappointed by the return of Frecklewish and Fidget Flake in particular. Don't get me wrong, I have nothing against these characters, but all throughout Vision of Shadows, I was really thinking that Alderheart's character arc was going to involve him leaving ThunderClan and becoming another clan's medicine cat, specifically SkyClan's. To explain myself a bit here, since that might seem like a bit of a stretch, it seemed to me that Alderheart just didn't fit into ThunderClan life. Not that he was hated or that he disliked being there, but ever since the first book, Alderheart has been tied to the prophecy involved with bringing SkyClan back to the lake, which I felt would have been more powerful if Alderheart was also meant to join SkyClan by the end of Vision of Shadows. Instead of just being another one of ThunderClan's many doctors, he would help SkyClan adjust to their new home by becoming one of them. And given that ThunderClan now has 3 medicine cats and was already loaning Leafpool out to ShadowClan after Little Cloud died, I really felt sure that we were setting up for Alderheart to make a move based on duty. When Echo Song, Frecklewish, and Fidget Paw all went MIA from SkyClan, that sealed the deal for me. I was positive that they were going to make Alderheart a SkyClan medicine cat as soon as they showed up to the lake, and Alderheart learned that they didn't have a medicine cat. It could have been interesting then to even bring Frecklewish or Fidgetpaw back after that too, and then have this tension surrounding whether Alderheart should stay or go back to ThunderClan. With either Frecklewish or Fidgetpaw being kind of antagonistic towards Alderheart, as they feel a bit betrayed, jealous, and maybe even get angry whenever Alderheart has to show them where herbs are, or how things work in the lake territory. There could be this great character chemistry there. As a result, Alderheart would have to learn to stand up for himself and make friends with the returning medicine cat, and then decide for himself to stay in SkyClan. But no, I guess Leafpool is just the rent-a-doctor for the clans lacking medicine cats. Yay! I sure do love how Leafpool just negates conflict with her sheer presence. While we're on this topic, we might as well discuss the bad. So, Vision of Shadows has a similar structuring problem that I've talked about in Warriors videos before. I go over it in the most detail during my rewrite of the New Prophecy, but essentially, the pacing in this arc leaves something to be desired, and getting to all the nooks and crannies of information for these books can make navigating this story a little complicated. Vision of Shadows is a 6-book arc, but to fully enjoy Vision of Shadows, you also need to read Hawkwing's Journey, Tigerheart's Shadow, and somehow get a hold of the Barnes & Noble exclusive chapters that came out with most main series entries. The one from Needlepaw and Dovewing's point of view I think are especially important, and it's honestly a bit of a disservice to the arc that these snippets were not included in all copies of the books. But anyway, that's a lot of bonus reading, considering how poorly paced the last 3 books are. If I had to reorganize the books into something a bit easier to digest with a better pace, I would probably go with something like this. The first 3 books stay unchanged. Barnes & Noble chapters are instead epilogues. Hawkwing's Journey replaces Book 4. We get the trials and tribulations of SkyClan as part of the arc, and it starts us semi-fresh for the second half of the story. Ends with SkyClan reaching the lake. Book 5 would be the important aspects of Darkest Night and River of Fire, mixed with the important plot points from Tigerheart's Shadow. As a result, a lot of filler and other things would have to get stripped from all 3 books, but the important thing is to show how miserable ShadowClan is without Tigerheart Star, and how SkyClan is settling poorly into their territory, but trying their hardest to make it work. Tigerheart Star's journey can now focus more on how he wants to take back ShadowClan land when he returns home, and the reader can see both sides of the ShadowClan and SkyClan conflict. This, of course, all leads into Raging Storm, just with a lot less faffing about. And this is all just a restructure, mind you. It doesn't get into things that I think would have been a better direction for characters to go, such as Alderheart becoming SkyClan's medicine cat, but it's a start. There was definitely enough story in Vision of Shadows to make a satisfying 6-book arc, but series traditions like keeping with the same protagonist throughout the whole arc kind of held it back from reaching that goal. So often, it feels like there isn't enough story material for the arcs to be 6 books. A lot tend to hit their stride around book 3 or 4 and then flounder in the final act. All that being said, Vision of Shadows really did a fantastic job overall, and I can't overstate that enough. There are so many moments that I loved from these books that made even River of Fire a fun read the first time around. Heck, this series even started on a traveling book of all things, and actually made it good and meaningful to the rest of the arc. And all of the major death scenes is where I really want to direct my praise, because Vision of Shadows has some truly stand-out death scenes, the likes that Warriors has not seen since, Hawkfrost's death in the New Prophecy, and it just blows that out of the water. Sandstorm, Rain, Needletail, Darktail versus One Star, Briarlight, Rowanclaw. Words cannot describe how meaningful each and every one of these scenes were, ranging from sheer badassery to completely wrecking me emotionally, and sometimes even managing to do both at the same time. More setups and beautifully fitting payoffs like these is just one of the things that I love about Warriors, and it's something that's been missing for far too long. SkyClan finally rejoining the other clans is also wonderful. It feels like the payoff we've been waiting for since we first heard about SkyClan in Firestar's quest. Not only is SkyClan a part of the 5 clans once again, but the Hunters did a phenomenal job making SkyClan matter. I'm more invested in SkyClan and its cats than I am in any of ThunderClan's huge cast of characters. Hawkwing, Leafstar, Fidget Flake, Violet Shine, Tree, Sandy Nose. I love all of these cats, and Vision of Shadows made me care about them just by giving them the screen time they needed with a dash of personality types we haven't seen in this series for a while. On a similar note, I love that Vision of Shadows finally broke one of those old Warriors traditions of keeping all the main characters in ThunderClan. The clan politics had an edge to it this time because we got to see multiple clans' viewpoints on things. ShadowClan was nearly destroyed, and ThunderClan wasn't left to swoop in and save everyone again. ShadowClan and SkyClan in particular were so well fleshed out and interesting this time around that it made going back to ThunderClan almost tedious. And I'm so glad that the Broken Code is going to be going down this road as well. And I just gotta say, even when some plots are handled debatably well, like Twig Branch's relationship issues with Finleap in the Raging Storm, I was still glad it was there. And Vision of Shadows does better than a lot of its predecessors on actually following through with drama and creating interesting conflicts to follow. And how do I even begin to put to words how much I loved the first 3 books of this arc and Hawkwing's journey? The rise and fall of Darktail, Needletail's character growth and sacrifice. It was amazing to see Warriors reach its potential again, and I can only hope that we don't have to wait too long before seeing it again. To wrap this all up, I just want to say that Vision of Shadows does not get enough credit for what it did accomplish. On the internet and in fandom communities, it's easy to get stuck in a loop of only talking about the negative, and why we feel negatively about it. And while that's completely valid, it is important to do the same for things that we liked and explain why we liked them. If you made it to the end of this video, first of all, thank you all for your time. Secondly, I hope you leave a comment below and tell me something you liked about Vision of Shadows, and what you hope to see in the Broken Code. I'll see you all next time.